Hi, welcome back to the Couture, where today I come dressed to you like the gosh darn sugar plum fairy in more layers of tulle than I can possibly count, to talk to you about the books of Christmas presents, or the 10 books that I crammed in this December, all Christmas rom-coms. So I started off my December reads with Winter in New York by Josie Silver. So this one is about Iris, and she has just moved to New York. She has a new bestie Bobby. She's working in his noodle restaurant because she's the chef, and he is trying to break her out of her funk because she is still dealing with the fact that her mom has recently passed. So one day he drags her to Little Italy and is like, there's this festival going on. I'm gonna get you out of your funk. Let's go eat our weight in pasta. We're gonna have a fantastic day. And at the very end of the third day, Iris is walking by this little shop that doesn't happen to be open at the time, and it's like, the place looks really familiar. She's like, I have to go home. We have to go home right now. And she goes and she pulls out this scrapbook that was her mother's, and sure enough, this place called Belotti's, this gelato shop, is in her mother's scrapbook. So she goes back the next day, peeking around, and the door next to her opens, and she's like, and the guy's like, you okay? And she's like, yeah, are you open? And he's like, well, there's no gelato, but I guess I could make you some coffee. And she's like, yes. So she goes and sits at the counter, and they get to talking, and it turns out he's a single dad named Gio. And she's like, when can I taste the gelato? And he's like, okay, don't tell anyone, but the reason we're not open during the festival and what's going on is we just have a tiny sample left. Here's the deal. Our recipe is amazing. We only serve vanilla gelato. She's like, what? He's like, yes, we have stayed in business all this time only serving vanilla gelato because it's the best freaking vanilla gelato in the world. Our recipe is like super secret. It has stayed in the family for forever, and only 2 members of the family can even know it at a time. My good for nothing dad, who's a musician, has run off. My uncle, who raised me and who I really call Papa, he unexpectedly had a stroke and he can't remember the recipe. She's like, so that sample. So they're flirting, and finally she gets to taste a sample of this amazing magical gelato. And did I mention that her and her mom had this amazing magical gelato recipe that she was sworn to secrecy about and promised she would never ever tell anyone ever the recipe for? It was the only thing her mom could eat in the end when she was passing of cancer. And oh my god, when she tastes the sample, it's the same gosh darn gelato. Yeah. Iris is pretty sure that Gio's uncle / Papa maybe possibly bumped into her mother and maybe possibly had some feelings for her at some time, which would probably really hurt this proud, really tight-knit family that she's slowly falling in love with over the course of them trying to come together and rediscover the gelato recipe because she's a chef. That's not convoluted at all, right? Not at all? No, great. Glad I explained it well. So that is their story. There's a lot more to it, but it's pretty fantastic. The Belotti family is pure delight. They are sunshine, they are spaghetti sauce, they are gelato. I want to be part of the Belotti family. They're wonderful. And the single dad trope is done so well. Gio's daughter is at that like teenage age where it could go really wrong, could go really right, and it goes so right. Everything is set up for success in this book. And it sounds like I'm about to give it 5 stars, doesn't it? Well, I don't mind her not telling them about the family recipe. However, nowhere on the back of this book does it explain that there is another lie of omission / deception that is going on this entire time. And she has something in her past that is really negative. Check your trigger warnings for that one. I'm not going to reveal it because it feels like a spoiler because it's nowhere on here. She doesn't meet Gio for the first time in the gelato shop. I'll put it that way. And there's this massive lie of omission hanging over them this entire time. The longer she waits, the worse it gets. And she could just tell him. She could just tell him and it would have been fine. And yet, it totally sets them up for this major third act bust up, and I totally get why he was so upset with her. I also think his reaction was completely overblown for this grown male who has a almost grown-up daughter. That really killed the book for me. I mean, that killed it. I gave it 4 stars, but it did knock off 1 entire star for a book that could have been so perfect. It really could have been. After that was All I Read for Christmas by Maggie Knox. This is about Sadie and Max, who are on a show kind of like American Idol called Star Maker, only it's for country music, down in Nashville, and it's all for like Christmas music, so that's where we're getting our Christmas jollies here. And they are competing against one another up until duet week, and these two guys are paired together, as you might have imagined. And when people freak out over, I'm so sorry to tell you that this is their couple name, here we go, Saxy. That's right, Sadie and Max are Saxy. They get paired together permanently as a duet because they're basically told, hey, if you two don't sing together for the rest of the competition, one of you is getting kicked off next week and the other gets to stay on. No big deal, right? Except supposedly they can't stand each other. And I do say supposedly because there's clearly some chemistry going on right away. Not fast enough for the network though, because they're like, we're gonna say you two now are fake dating, and you need to keep fake dating until our holiday special. Have fun with that, guys. Bye! This one was pretty cute for the most part. It was the dual POV that made this book work so well for me, because this book actually takes place over like multiple Christmases. We get last Christmas and this Christmas, and then we get like an epilogue. So we essentially get to see this couple grow over multiple years, which is so appreciated because usually in holiday romances, we're expected to believe that we see couples get together after like, what, a month, 2 months max, and they're soulmates, and that's it, happily ever after. With this one, they're musicians. There's going to be drama. We get to see them fight and break up and make up and all the good stuff over the course of quite a long time. So when we finally see them get together, we know they've worked through a heck of a lot of issues, and it actually feels like this couple stands a chance in the real world, or the book world. You know what I mean. The book did a really good job making sure that we always had the dates and the countdowns to Christmas, and we knew exactly when and where we were, which I appreciated given the dual POV. And Max gets so many points, by the way, because his reaction to stress is knitting sweaters for his dog. So many points for that. So many points. You get a star right there just for that. Their chemistry, I have to say, was also pretty good. I enjoyed the banter. It was pretty fun, but I found that Sadie was a little more hostile than she needed to be, given the reason she was hostile to him. I don't know. A lot of this was cute and fun to read, but it didn't really hold up under further scrutiny. First of all, are you really going to tell me that no one in the audience, let alone no one in the contest, is going to complain that 2 out of the 3 frontrunners in a competition are suddenly competing together as a duo? Like, that's not going to get them double the votes and give them a huge advantage in a competition. I'm not buying that one for a second. There was also misunderstanding after misunderstanding after misunderstanding. We got to see multiple times where a character saw something and misunderstood it and didn't confront the other character and ask them what it was about. The lack of communication drove me crazy. It was too much. This one made me a little nutty. If the 2 of them just talked, trust one another a little bit, well, there wouldn't have been a book, would there? If you need to rely on that many misunderstandings and miscommunications to have a book, maybe you need to come up with more plot. 3 stars for the sweaters for the dog. After that, I was supposed to read So This Is Christmas by Jenny Holiday, but apparently this is the 3rd in a series, and you actually have to read them all because they all take place in Eldovia. Isn't that the one on Netflix too? Apparently the plot's totally different though. They just happen to choose the same made-up foreign country name. So we're gonna explore that next year. Very curious. We'll check that out. Also didn't get to the romance one because it turns out I have 2 more books to read before that, so sorry guys. Moving on. I was so excited to pick up The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. Turns out this is the 2nd in a series, and while you can read it as a standalone, I will warn you now, I'm very sorry, hairdresser who I gave this book to. Sorry, Michaela. You will feel like you are kind of missing things at certain points if you don't read the first book first, which is called like Mr. Fix-It or something. But I did read it. It did work. I actually matched my nails to it because I'm a crazy person. This is about a single dad and town manager. That's a job now. I thought they were mayors. Whatever. He's the town manager. His name is Noah Yates, and he has the cutest daughter, Sarah, by the way. And he lives in this adorable town called, Mary, Connecticut. Enjoy that for a moment. It's a great town, and as you might have guessed, their big holiday is Christmas. There it is. So Christmas comes along every year and they have this big month-long festival for all of December, and that makes all the money the town apparently needs to run itself for an entire year. We learn all about Mary, Connecticut just in time to see it get completely destroyed by a head-on hit from a hurricane. And we also meet Catalina King, who goes by Cat, don't you worry, who happens to be on some knockoff network that I've already forgotten the name of. We're going with HGTV, okay? It's HGTV. And she works on fixing destroyed homes, and she's about to really kick it up a notch by proposing she fix an entire destroyed town called Mary in Connecticut. She's like, oh my gosh, your town got destroyed? Let me come fix it for you. And this totally makes sense, right? Right? Oh no. Noah's like, I can't have you come waltzing in here and giving my daughter ideas of glitz and glam and stardom and letting her get flighty ideas in her head. That would be terrible. And I don't want you like explaining our town and our trauma on national television. So no, you can't come fix our town for free. Kat's like, you know I'm bringing in a crew and all this money to fix everything for you, right? And he's like, yes. And thus begins our tale. And as you can imagine, Noah, Mr. Glasses-wearing quiet Noah, is going to fall for Kat, and Kat is going to fall for Noah. Apparently, she was there once before and like punched a guy in a bar, and that's his beef with Kat. So anyway, I'm going to just read you this sentence because it's Lucy's score. They can't be in a room together without rubbing each other the wrong way, except for that time in a dark alley where the rubbing was just right. This is exactly what you would expect from Lucy's score. You get the banter, the fighting, the arguing, and then all of a sudden they can't keep their hands off one another. I particularly enjoyed the one scene with Sarah. This was the single dad trope done exactly right. Sarah is at the age where she can bond with Kat. The two of them at one point are like standing in her room talking about how can I make it less kiddish, and Kat is like, here's some ideas for your room. They're bonding over like home decorating. It's adorable. I loved their relationship. The town of Mary is fantastic, and you actually do kind of see Kat getting her hands dirty. She's in there. She's doing the work. She wears jeans. I don't see glitz or glam, so I don't know what you're whining about at all, Noah. I will say, I don't think we're quite at peak Lucy Score writing yet. This book is from like 2017, so we don't have quite the same sharp wit or quite the same crazy hijinks I've come to expect to her, quite the same humor. And the smut is maybe not quite as good, although you know what? I gotta give it to Noah. It's always the quiet ones in the glasses. Just saying. What I didn't love was the plot stuff. Like, it was talking about why would Noah ever turn down anyone coming in to fix the town? He's got a major problem. Someone's offering to fix it. You're not going to turn that down. Also, the timeline. Kat is promising to have everything fixed for Christmas Eve, and somehow they're going to make all of their money using sponsors and like lots of advertising and getting a massive crowd all in one day from this festival, when they usually make all their money in a month. You could have had someone swoop in and be like, we saw your plate. We want to make sure you get it done in time. We're going to help you get this done extra fast. Like, I don't know. The logistics, not the strong point of this book. I will say, fixing a town for Christmas, it doesn't get much more Hallmarky or Christmas feels than that. The ending, it was fine. As far as Lucy's score books go, though, I mean, I gotta give this one a 3. We are not doing well with the reads here. We really aren't. Am I a Grinch this year? I don't know, guys. Points for the cover? After that, I read The Christmas Wager by Holly Cassidy. And if you are looking for a holiday movie in book form, you don't feel like watching TV, you'd rather read the book, this is the one for you. We have got an LA-based real estate developer, and Bella Ross, I'll just tell you her name now, and she is fighting for her next promotion. She is high-powered, she's got the heels, I mean, they describe her in the heels, the outfit, everything, you name it. She's fighting for that next promotion up against her ex-boyfriend. Not even kidding. And all she has to do is land this one last deal to get it. And where does she have to go? Maple Falls. And what does she have to do in Maple Falls? Buy a Christmas shop. I kid you not, named Always Noel, because apparently this shop is in the perfect location to turn into luxury condos. So in goes Bella. She's ready to go. She super low balls the offer way below the lowest low price her boss suggests, screws up the entire deal, and in walks the stubborn grandson of the shop owner's Jesse, just as she's almost got it, and he's like, wow, you're super freaking lowballing my grandfather, what are you doing? And she's like, crap. Okay, let me come in with a slightly higher price. I can up this for you guys. You're right. You know what? You deserve better. Grandpa's got a twinkle in his eye, and he can see the sparks flying between these two already. And he doesn't just think that they're like fighting sparks. Nay, nay, my friends. He thinks that these two could have some serious romantic chemistry. So he comes up with this plan. If his son Jesse wins the Maple Fall Holiday Games run by the, wait for it, the town's elderly club called the Merry Asterix. I love this town so much. He will force Bella to go back to her boss and up her original asking price by $150,000, which pretty much guarantees Bella is not getting this promotion. However, if Bella and her team that she's going to somehow like jump on, I think she takes the grandpa's place or something, wins the games, he will take that super lowball offer that she originally did, and she's gonna look like a goddamn hero to her boss, totally win the day, and definitely get that promotion and probably a big bonus on top of it. What's the girl to do? What's the guy to do? They agree to this plan. Grandpa is a crafty one. This is the most Christmassy Christmas book, let me tell you. I mean, we've got people dressed up as presents, Grinches, we've got baking competitions, we've got everything going on for these Christmas games, which all lead up to this like massive race at the end. It's fantastic. This was adorable. This was everything I wanted out of a Christmas read. It truly, truly was. Everything about this book was so sweet. Now, was it completely and totally 100,000% unbelievable? Yes. Did we have a mean, nasty villain who had to come in and the like third acts and mess everything up, which totally irritated me? Yes, but that is also very true to the holiday movie tropes that we have come to know and love. This came so close to a 5-star. I really bought their chemistry. It was fade to black. And I think some of the third act miscommunication stuff, I couldn't quite give it a 5 because I was so gosh darn frustrated with these guys. I really, really was. But other than that, this was a great read. I had a great time. This was the one I think I had the most fun reading. I have not heard too many people talking about this one. So if you're looking for a last minute holiday read, try this one. It was just fun. It was just fun. That's what I have to say about this book. The Holiday Wager. Let the games begin. They were games. They were truly games. It was fun. Ugh. The Xmas Holidays by Zoe Allison. If you couldn't tell by my initial reaction, bet you could, because I'm real good at hiding my feelings on this channel. You know what? Every readathon usually ends up with one dud, and this was it. Every time I cringed, I put a little sticky. It's a lot of stickies, guys, okay? And I don't mean like a eye roll. I mean like a full-on cringe. Okay, so it starts off pretty good, I have to say. I was having really high expectations. I mean, it doesn't start off well for our main character. Maya is unfortunately heading home for the holidays after leaving her boyfriend, and she's going back to stay with her parents for a while in her hometown to kind of figure things out. Now, she is pausing at her friend's house on the way home. It just literally happens to be on the way, very convenient. And when she gets there, she realizes it's quite the fun party because there's a naked waiter there. And plot twist, it's Sam, the guy she knows and sort of was totally in love with before she left town originally for like college. For her, it was awkward. For me, it was highly entertaining. He had like a little apron in the front, okay? It was fine. Sam's there and he's trying to like get a little extra cash. He's a ski instructor back home. That was always his dream. That was always the plan. He's pretty happy with that deal. His car won't start when it's time to leave the party, and Maya's like, well, why don't you come home with me? It's not like I just saw your jingle balls or anything. Well, she did an apron. So I'll drop you home. So when Maya gets home, we quickly see that they are playing up real hard to the like Indian parents having super hard expectations for their daughters. They're mad she's not married. They're mad that she left her like a high-powered job or whatever. And Maya, meanwhile, is totally disappointing them completely when she's like, you know what? I think I want to be a ski instructor. And they're like, temporarily, right? She's like, yeah. They just need help right now. Like, they're super swamped. It's like the holidays. So she goes to work in the Scottish Highlands. Did I mention it's the Scottish Highlands? Anything with the Scottish Highlands, right? Like, I'm in. With Sam, and this is their romance. Now, everything sounds good, right? Like, everything sounds like it's gonna be a win for me. And it should have been, but the book got weird. First of all, Sam has a girlfriend, and this is like a former bestie of theirs. They all went to high school together. And so we very much have like a Rory, Dean, Lindsay thing going on. And those were the strong vibes that I was getting for a while. And it does feel like Maya is like looking down her nose a little. Like those were just the vibes I was getting. Okay, no one wants those vibes. It was weird until the book tried real hard to make Lindsay a complete and total jerk. She was super mean to Sam. She was like checking his phone. She was super controlling. She was picking fights. Everything and anything they could do to make this girl look bad, they did, including having Maya talk bad behind her back and call her all kinds of names, and just like, aren't we beyond the catty girl thing? Like, aren't we beyond that? Aren't we beyond making women look this bad in books? I'm kind of over all of that. It was just so completely unnecessary in the book to do that. They used her as a total plot device later, and they could have done something else. They didn't need to do that. And Maya was so obsessed with playing the victim the whole time that she even tried to complain about being the victim in her own family. Her other sister, she was complaining that her parents were like giving her a break and praising her and like all this stuff when she had just been widowed and is a single mom with children and trying to work a job at the same time. I don't care that you like don't have your dream job right now and like left your boyfriend you didn't care about. Like your sister just lost the love of her life and is trying to like keep it together for her kids, keep taking care of her kids, which is flipping exhausting, by the way, and hold down a job. You have no sympathy for her because you think your parents are treating her better. Yeah, we got Rory in the later seasons and even in like Year of the Life of Gilmore Girls here. That is who we're reading about in this book, and I hated it. I found her so unlikable, so unrelatable. I was miserable reading this book, you guys. This was like kindly a 2-star. Don't pick this one. Next up, the book I chose to match today, Tessa Bailey's Wreck the Halls. This was an interesting one. The book is about Melody and Beat. They're the children of two famous ex-musicians, their moms, who were in a group called Steel Birds. So Melody spends her day restoring books, and she kind of is shy and awkward. She didn't have a great time with like the tabloids, you know, being the child of a famous mother. She really hated the fact that a lot of her adolescence and awkward years was kind of like caught on camera, and as a result she just is quiet and wants to live a quiet little life, and that's good for her. She is perfectly content with that. Beat, the camera loves him. He likes to have a lot of friends. He likes to go to parties. He's not like a bad boy per se. He keeps his love life actually pretty gosh darn secret, but you know what? He doesn't mind being on camera so much and is generally known for being super charming. So it's not particularly surprising when a network approaches him and is like, you know what, we would love to do a show, especially if you can get Melody in on this, to get your moms back together for a reunion. We want to get a 24-hour like crew on the two of you and see if you guys can get your moms together again in time for New Year's Eve to do like a reunion special at Rockefeller Center. And Beat and Melody, meanwhile, met once when they were like 16 and apparently like both had stars and hearts in their eyes. The producers are like salivating over it. And meanwhile, Beat and Melody are kind of like, they like each other, okay? They like each other. It's a pretty simple plot. They want to say yes so they can spend more time together. It's not that hard to explain. Why am I making this hard? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this book does not have a ton of holiday feels, despite what this cover is showing you. We do get a brawl with a few Santas. Not kidding. We do get an epic snowball fight. That part was amazing. I loved that scene so much. I loved that scene. And we do get the Rockefeller Center showdown concert, whatever we're going to call that one. I'm not going to give away anything by describing that particular scene. The banter's great. It's funny. The dialogue is funny. The writing is fresh and funny. It's sharp. I enjoyed it so much. The two of them together really do have sparks flying. As we were getting further into the book, we were warned time and time again about Beat's, shall we say, unusual sexual proclivities, inclinations. But you know what? They weren't that weird. What haven't we seen at this point? Thank you, Christian Grey, for starting off that super fun trend. Actually, you know what? I'm not mad about any of that. Mostly, this is a dual point of view book, and that dual point of view is used mostly to make sure that we know their feelings are very, very strong, so the relationship can move very, very quickly, so we can get to the smut very, very quickly. I think that for the most part, while Beat is given plenty of time to explore his tendencies and grow and develop, Melody doesn't get the same treatment. Melody is kind of really more of a background character in this book, which I find unfortunate. Because Tessa Bailey does prefer to write the smut and the sex, we don't get the same emotional satisfaction for Melody that we do on the sexual side for Beat. So I just wish the two characters had been allowed to work through their past trauma and some of their issues equally, if that makes sense. I liked reading the book. I had fun with the book. It didn't feel like a holiday read. It was just a smutty read. So if you want to pull out a book that looks very holiday-ish and just read some smut, here you go. That being said, I enjoyed reading it. I was laughing out loud, it was funny, they were charming, and you know what? An author who's willing to call out her own one bed trope. You got points from me for that, Tessa Bailey. You got points from me. I don't think it's necessarily her best work, but effort was made. I also read two Jenny Bayliss books back to back, and I kind of have the same criticism and the same things that I loved about her writing, so I'm going to say them up front and then I'll talk about the plots of both books. So I love her writing. These were both my right before bed books because the writing is dreamy and slow and like slipping into a bath or drinking a cup of tea. It's relaxing, it's languid. Both books are set over in England, but I don't want you to think like London, England. I want you to think like frosty greenery and like thatched roof villages. So you get these really charming settings. The writing is really lovely, but I also have the same criticism. In both of her books, I felt like she maybe was a little heavy-handed with some of her themes and felt the need to really hammer them home and drive them a little too hard. And I wish that she had trusted her readers to pick up on those themes without feeling the need to wave giant flags over them. And at some points I even felt like maybe she was sort of looking down on certain elements or, you know, looking down her nose on her characters from a high horse, and I hated that. So let's get into the books. So the first one that I read was Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, and don't get me wrong, I really did love both of these books. So this one is about Nori, Eleanor Noel, who is living my dream and owns a bookstore. She's living in London in a little flat, and she has friends and a cat named Mugwort, which I love. Holidays are coming up and she's getting ready to go to a Christmas wedding back in her hometown. Now, this is not just your average everyday Christmas wedding, okay? This wedding is taking place at a gosh darn castle because your girl Nori was a scholarship student at a school at a gosh darn like English manor. It's all of her high school friends getting together again because one of them is getting married. Now she was the only scholarship student. All of her friends are mega rich and have like mega fancy, super important jobs. One night she sort of slips out of the castle because she's dodging a former fling whose wife is also there at the time, yikes. And she literally falls into the arms of the gardener, who's the son of the former gardener when they were there, named Isaac. And this is, yes, you guessed it, their romance. It sounds like this sweet, charming little romance, but there's so much more going on here than I was expecting there to be. It really does tackle a lot of like social issues. First of all, there's this very sad underlying thing going on, talking about, you know, mental health and growing up and growing older and growing apart, and how important it is to make sure that, you know, you're looking past the surface and really talking to one another and talking to therapists and talking about the issues that really matter and checking in with one another. I haven't seen an author really do that. I certainly haven't seen an author do that in a holiday book, and I wasn't expecting it. And the holidays are known to be a time that are really hard for people. So to see that in a holiday book, talking about mental health and getting support and talking to people, I really appreciated that. Class issues also play a really big role in this book. And this was where the author, I felt, got really heavy-handed. It was just It was a bit much, it truly was. Other issues like infidelity, trust, and even authenticity really were kind of explored, and I appreciated an author who was like, you know what, I'm gonna write a holiday book, but it's not just gonna be total fluff. There's one subplot particularly that I was just totally enchanted by, totally in love with, and when it came together at the end, I was just like, yes. So I do have to say, I don't think Jenny Bayless is gonna be everyone's cup of tea, but I loved this book. I don't think it quite made 5-star because of that heavy-handedness. It felt moralistic at times, it really did. And like, she wanted to make sure we had the moral of the story and a cartoony villain and all that stuff. If you had taken those things away, this would have been a 5-star. It was so close. Her other book, A December to Remember. Okay, I'll tell you what it's about, and then I'll get into it. But this one was something really, really special and really, really different. So this is about 3 sisters. This is not a holiday romance. Can we just say holly freaking Luya? I needed something different. I got something different. This is about Maggie, Simone, and Star, and these sisters could not be more different. Maggie is a mom, and she's very like practical and down to earth. You get the picture. Simone is emotionally constipated, is how I would describe Simone. I'm sorry, Simone. So we've got salt of the earth, emotionally constipated, and Star. Star is exactly who you think she's gonna be, like, wild child. Everything will happen as is meant to be. The world will provide. They all grew up together, spending summers together in this tiny little village called Rowanthorpe in England with their father, whose name is Augustus Balthazar North. That's right, we have Star North, guys. And they spent 1 month there every summer. They all had 3 different moms who were very much like them. Augustus, let me tell you, he made that month magic. They probably ate ice cream for dinner. You know what I'm talking about. Now, basically, they describe him as a man who is loved by all and known by none, not even his daughters, and it pretty much sums this guy up. And the book begins with him dying. So I'm not getting to know him either. They're all called together when he passes, and they have to come together for the reading of his will. And they very quickly realize that if they want to inherit his shop, which apparently, it's not just knickknacks, he has some amazing antiquities and stuff there, like stuff that's worth big money, okay, big money. Not to mention the building and the land and everything. They're gonna have to jump through some hoops. And they do want to unlock their inheritance. Who doesn't want money? So the 3 of them, Maggie and Star in particular, and Simone can't resist a puzzle, all decide that, yes, of course, we're going to jump through these hoops and do what he says. And like, the point of everything, of course, is to make them come together and become sisters and get to know one another. And he has devised this whole plan so they become a real family, blah, blah, blah. I loved this book. So let's talk about what was so different about this one. First of all, it's about sisters coming together. And they all do have romantic interests. That hasn't changed. But it's a book about sisterly love instead of romantic love, first of all, which is great. You get the sense of these girls recapturing some of that childhood magic every once in a while, and it is delightful, especially around the holidays. Now, one of their jobs, the big job, is to recreate the town's old winter solstice celebration, and to see something instead of just Christmas, to see something just purely winter and pagan. It was wonderful. That was where Jenny Bayless got a little weird. It was almost like she kept feeling the need to tell us that this pagan celebration was okay. Multiple times the sisters would be like, gosh, I don't know what the villagers are gonna say. And then another sister would be like, it's okay. God made winter. God made the winter solstice. And it just felt like, if you're going to have a book surrounding the winter solstice, have a book surrounding the winter solstice. You're literally having a feast and making like bird seed molds and having a bonfire. It's fine. So that was a little strange. There was also a very strange scene that did not need to happen at all, that actually made the plot make less sense for the gymnastics that the writing needed to go through to make it happen, where all of a sudden we had this very feminist scene and a very cartoonish villain again. I don't know why, and literally, like, the villain's calling them out for being these dirty feminists, blah, blah, blah. Very weird. Those were my only complaints about the book, though. The book itself was lovely. These sisters were so much fun. Their little romances were so much fun. The kids in the book were fun. All the characters were great. The town itself was fantastic. I loved seeing the winter solstice celebration. Everything was just great. I felt some childlike delight reading this again. You're not gonna get any smut, so don't expect any of that. But it didn't need it. It just didn't need it. And when it came to everything being tied up in that big bow, like all of these books, you know we're gonna do at the end, This one somehow felt the most organic and natural and real. I really loved this book. Probably because it was so refreshing to not just have something that's a holiday romance. Fun story. I picked up Talk Santa to Me by Linda Urban because I thought this was going to be a glorious smutty book. Turns out this is YA. No, seriously, this is completely YA. And I think that's why I loved it. It was just such a complete and total step back, total refresher from all this stuff that I had so much fun reading it. This is about frankincense wood. No, I know. Even reading the name, it should be smut, right? It's not. So it's about Francie, who was literally born in a stable in a nativity because her family runs a Christmas shop, okay? It's actually not just like a Christmas shop, it's a holiday shop. So like she gets the best of everything. Can you imagine having your family run a holiday shop? I would be in my glory. We see her starting like the day after Halloween when things are switching over to Santa season. And I do mean Santa season because they run a Santa school. Talk Santa to me. They're learning how to be Santa's ho 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 and how to talk to children. And boy, was I off the mark. Guess which list I'm on, naughty or nice this year. Francie is struggling a little bit this year because she recently lost her grandpa, who was bar none the best Santa in the whole gosh darn world. He taught all the lessons. He had the perfect ho ho ho. He knew the answers to every question a kid could ever come up with. He had the real beard, okay? The real beard. He was holly and jolly. And she is just super missing him, which is making this pretty rough. It also means that, well, her dad's doing his best to be Santa, but no one can take Grandpa's place, which means their Santa school kind of struggling without the perfect Santa instructor. All she wants this year for Christmas, at least according to Francie, is a little extra money so she can finally buy the car she has her eye on and to keep her Aunt Carol from ruining the family business. And it does seem like Carol is doing some pretty nefarious stuff, okay? She wants to bring in some fancy Santa from like LA or something, and like, I didn't really fully understand this plot point. Carol, just honestly, what were you thinking? Like, you're gonna bring in some smarmy guy from LA and like, what, franchise the school? What was the plan? The villain? Oof. Carol was not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. She also, of course, has a crush on a boy named Hector. And this begins our story. This one was so cute. This was so funny, okay? Our girl here, she is hilarious. This is totally told in a fresh, funny, young YA voice. It woke me up. I was ready to go reading this from the very first sentence. Like, listen to some of this stuff. What do I say? Impulse or impression? Confection or costume change? Dessert or dignity? Like, she was hilarious. Even her little expressions, you can tell she was raised on Christmas. Instead of swearing, she just goes, "Oh, holy night." Like, I loved this book. This was so Christmas. It was dripping Christmas. She even has to try out every week a different, like, potential uniform for all the people in her parents' shop to wear over December, and she has to keep rating them, and the ratings are hilarious. Breathability, poor. Sometimes caught my reflection in countertops and windows, which made breathing difficult for several minutes afterwards. Durability, too adorable. Repeated attempts to set fire to vest proved unsuccessful. Restriction of movement. Severe shame associated with being seen in uniform restricted me to stockroom. This book was so funny from start to finish, but it did start getting a little more serious as the book went on. We started seeing her get more and more involved in the family business, and at one point, her stupid aunt is trying to sabotage everything, and she jumps in and decides to be Santa's intern. And this leads her to seeing all of these letters from children, and you know where this is going. This is where the heartwarming part comes in. This is where the whole town gets involved. This is where those big Christmas feels come in, and I gotta say, you guys, if you're feeling grinchy, this one's gonna start you off slow, make you laugh, indulge a few of those grinchy feels, I'll tell you that much, and then sucker punch you and make that heart grow 3 sizes bigger, I promise. I would recommend this for YA readers. I would recommend this for middle grade readers even. I think they could manage it. I would recommend this for adult readers. This one's a winner. I don't know why we haven't heard more about this, but man, loved it. I finished off my incredible holiday binge with 3 Holidays and a Wedding by Uzma Jalaluddin and Marissa Stapley. So this is about 2 strangers who wind up next to each other on an airplane, Miriam Aziz and Anna Gibson, and they are flying to Toronto for the holidays. Miriam is headed over there with most of the wedding party, her sister and her whole big family, for her sister's wedding. They are about to do the darn thing, and meanwhile they are doing the whole Ramadan fasting thing, which is making flying even less fun than usual. And Anna is heading over there to meet her boyfriend's family for the first time, which, no, not nerve-wracking at all. They're like rich and it's gonna be fancy, and she's like really kind of nervous, can't blame her. So they are sitting next to each other, and all of a sudden the plane has this crazy turbulence, and what are they to do but panic and make a bunch of confessions to one another? Whoops! So kind of semi-instant friends, sort of, except, you know, after telling one another all their hopes and fears, they assume they'll never see one another again. It's perfect. It's like writing in a diary and then lighting it on fire. Except a couple problems. First of all, that turbulence was a giant snowstorm, which causes them to land 2 hours away from Toronto, their original destination, in a charming town called Snow Falls. No, I'm not kidding. And Miriam's crush slash, I don't know, love of her life, we're gonna call him that since she's had a crush on him for her whole gosh darn life, named Sif, happened to be sitting like 2 seats behind them for the entire confession. God, that's totally something I would do. So, they're all stuck in Snow Falls. There's only one hotel. The good side of it is apparently completely occupied for, as it turns out, a Hollywood film crew who happened to be filming in Snow Falls at the time. A holiday film, actually, go figure. And they're stuck in the side of the hotel that may or may not have poisonous black mold. We're letting that go. So, yeah, they're now stuck there until the snow stops. Stays there. Miriam's whole family is there, who, by the way, are really unhappy about the fact that they may or may not miss this wedding. And Anna's there without her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's really pissed, by the way, and not taking any of this well, might I add. This is about their stay there. Did I mention that one of the members of that film crew happens to be Anna's crush? No, fun times. Okay, so this one takes place in the year 2000, which is really a smart choice. It also took me back because, wow, you know what? 2000 was a really freaking long time ago. The lack of smartphones, the lack of technology and iPads and all this stuff, it made it feel like it took place in a totally different world. It certainly made me feel nostalgic at the very least. And I wish we still lived in this world in a lot of ways. Although prying my smartphone out of my hands, I mean, I'm filming on YouTube. Good freaking luck. Snow Falls is magical. It's also unbelievable. But I think that's fine. I read fantasy. I'm perfectly happy living in a fantasy fairy tale world where it's not unicorns, but a place where everyone is getting along and where every religion can get along and every culture can get along and we can celebrate everything all at once and be happy together. And you know what? Maybe that's an even better fantasy than some of these back here on my shelves. I don't mean to sound preachy or heavy-handed. Sorry, Jenny Bayless. Maybe I should shut up. But that's how this book left me feeling. As for the characters, 2 separate stories, but these 2 women actually had a shocking amount in common. So Miriam very much felt like her family expected her to do everything and did not appreciate her at all. But she also was the one who put herself in that situation time and time again. And I love that her romantic interest totally helped her see that about herself. That she was not being appreciated because she didn't appreciate herself and didn't expect to be appreciated. And we love a guy who is going to help our girl see herself for what she is and get what she deserves. You can see they really cared for one another and they were going to make it work. Her relationship with her sister, you really came to understand them by the end. Things came out that you didn't expect to come out, and I appreciated that. And I actually learned a lot about Ramadan and some of the Muslim culture, which I appreciated. You know what? I really didn't know much of anything, and I came away with such an appreciation. All that fasting, holy cannoli. I'm really glad they don't make diabetic grandpa do it though. Thank you for making medical exceptions. As for Anna, she also very much had this like doormat sensibility. I'm going to be the person I think everyone wants me to be, in particular right now at this moment. And she ends up finding family support from a family that's not even her own. And that found family aspect was so delightful and wonderful. And then you see this romance blossoming. Will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they? And it's charming and it's sweet and they're meet cute, you guys. Oh my goodness. This whole entire town is this absolute utopia where there are restaurants and bakeries and shops that cater to the Jewish community, the Christian community, the Muslim community. You can find anything you need to celebrate any holiday you want. The play at the end involves all 3 holidays. It is wonderful and it's magical and it feels like this perfect place in this perfect world where time is frozen, quite literally. No one's getting in or out with that snowstorm. This was the read I needed this year and I'm so glad that I found it. If you haven't picked this one up, there's no smut, but there's sweetness. There's all the holidays. There's a ton of snow. There's all the festivities you could want. There's even a wedding. What more do you need? I'm not sure, but go for it, guys. I loved it. I want to live in snowfalls. Actually, I don't. It's snowy all the time and really cold all the time. But aside from that, you know, if I wasn't constantly freezing, this would be a great choice for me. Well, that is it for this Sugar Plum Fairy. I hope you enjoyed my books of Christmas present. I have come to the conclusion that as much fun as this was too many Christmas books for me this year, you guys. I had a bit of a struggle getting through all of them. I honestly did, because all I wanted after reading all those amazing books for the Goodreads Choice Awards was to read more fantasy. And as much as romance used to be my main genre circa 2019, maybe even 2020, I think I am mainly now a fantasy girly. I'm gonna say it. Fantasy, romantasy, I don't know. I was waiting for a unicorn or a dragon or a prince or a princess, which was a really strange realization to come to realize that my old favorite genre, which I enjoyed for years of my adult life, is no longer my favorite. What is that about? But anyway, please like and subscribe. Happy holidays. I will let you get back to your book, and I will be finishing up my Nutcracker reads. At least they're fantasy, but they're still Christmas. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.